At my own beach house, my sister Brooke slammed her suitcase onto the porch and said breakfast at 6. Full spread. Travis likes things done right. She had no idea I'd already found the copied key she'd been using to slip into my place for months. No idea her landlord had confronted me about Travis using my address as his own, and definitely no idea what I planned to stir into their morning coffee after years of treating me like a walking credit line. But what they didn't know was only the beginning. Before I go any further, tell me where you're watching from, and hit like and subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by your own family. You'd be surprised how many people know this exact kind of silence, the kind that comes after someone you love demands more than you can give. Your support keeps these stories alive, and trust me, this one only gets heavier. I grew up in a house where silence had a ranking system and I was always at the bottom. At 6 years old, I didn't know the word favoritism, but I knew the feeling of sitting at a dinner table where the biggest piece of chicken always landed on Brooke's plate. Mom would smile at her like she was made of glass. She needs it more. She'd say, pushing the bowl toward her. I'd nod, pretending I wasn't hungry. That nod carved more than I realized. One winter evening, snow tapping against the window, I came home clutching a first-place science certificate. My breath made clouds in the living room air as I held it up, waiting, hoping for someone to care. Dad glanced up from football just long enough to mumble, "Good job," then turned the volume higher. Mom didn't even read the certificate. She spun toward Brooke. "Let's show Ethan your recital dress." Minutes later, they were all crowded around her phone, choosing glitter versus lace. My award curled in my hand like it was embarrassed to be there. I didn't know it then, but this would matter later. By 14, I had mastered the sound of grocery store refrigerators humming at midnight. I stocked shelves after school because bills at home came fast and loud. My paycheck went into a jar Mom labeled "family help," but one night I caught Brooke pulling bills from it. "Gas," she said with a flip of her hair. Dad stood behind me and murmured, "Let her, she needs it." That sentence dug under my ribs and stayed. College wasn't freedom, it was just distance. I worked nights mopping floors at a diner that smelled like burnt grease and old coffee. I'd send part of my tips home imagining they went to rent or groceries. Months later, I saw Brooke's Instagram beach trip cocktails self-care weekend. My money, her fun. I didn't know it back then, but that sting would come roaring back. Holidays were their own battlefield. One Christmas, Brooke unwrapped a new tablet for school. I opened a pack of socks. Dad grinned. "You're practical. You'll appreciate it." I smiled like it didn't sting. The tree lights flickered, and for a second I felt completely transparent, present but unseen. Years later, when I opened Low Tide, apparel hands shaking as I unlocked my first shop, Mom texted the family chat, "So proud of you, Ethan." 10 minutes later, electric bill is late. "Can you spot us until Friday?" Friday slid into next Wednesday, then into next week, promise. The shop wasn't a dream to them. It was a faucet they could turn on whenever they needed. By 29, my apartment had a permanent dent on the couch from where Brooke crashed for a week that became 2 months. She'd borrow my car, drain the gas, scatter iced coffee cups around like decor. "You're lucky," she'd say. "You don't have real stress." I cleaned up after her in silence, but inside, something started to rust. And still, every time my phone buzzed with the word emergency, I answered. Every time Brooke cried, I helped. Every time Dad said, "You're the oldest, you step up," I stepped. I didn't know it then, but all those small cuts were sharpening something inside me, something that wouldn't stay quiet forever. By 30, I'd learned to stretch $1 until it begged for mercy. I fixed my own shelves, patched my own jeans, unclogged my own drains, because hiring help meant choosing between repairs and groceries. Meanwhile, Brooke drifted through life like she was on a cloud someone else had paid for. She bounced between jobs, barista 1 month, content creator the next, yet somehow always landed on my couch when rent came due. Just 2 weeks, she'd promised dropping bags by the door, but 2 weeks always became 2 months. She treated my apartment like a crash pad, wet towels on my bed, loud phone calls at midnight, iced coffee cups multiplying like rabbits. The worst part wasn't the mess. It was how she'd look at me and say, "You're so lucky you don't have real problems." I swallowed hard because disagreeing felt like betrayal. Then came the night that split my patience clean down the middle. I just finished repainting the back wall of my shop hands' numb clothes, stiff with dried paint, when Mom texted emergency, call immediately. My stomach tightened. I pictured hospitals, accidents. Instead, I heard Mom's breathy panic, Brooks being evicted. It's not her fault. Can she stay with you for 2 weeks? There it was again. 2 weeks. I said yes before I could think. Guilt had a way of pressing buttons faster than logic. Brooke arrived with 5 suitcases and 0 shame. She blasted music at 2 a.m., borrowed my car constantly, and left the tank running on fumes every time. She posted photos from my porch, so grateful for this healing space. No mention that it wasn't hers. No mention it wasn't free. The credit card incident happened a month later. I got an email from a hotel 3 states away. Thank you for your stay. I froze. When I checked my card, the charge matched the one I kept hidden in my supply drawer. The drawer Brooke rummaged through weekly, claiming to look for tape or scissors. When I confronted her, she didn't flinch. I borrowed it. I said I'd pay you back. You always say yes. Dad joined in with a sigh. Don't be dramatic, Ethan. Something inside me tilted just slightly, but enough to change the horizon. Then came the beach house, the first thing in my life that felt like mine. A tiny 2-bedroom cottage that smelled of sea salt and possibility. I scraped old paint-sanded cabinets and pulled out warped floorboards until my knuckles cracked. I bought the cheapest espresso machine I could find, learned how to fix a leaky screen door, and slept better there than anywhere I had in years. Peace lasted exactly 3 months. During a Sunday dinner at my parents' place, the kind with meatloaf, overcooked vegetables, and the TV blaring football, Mom casually said I told Brooke to put the spare key somewhere safe. My fork froze midair. What spare key? She blinked. The copy I made for emergencies. The room tilted. Dad muttered without looking away from the TV. Don't be petty. Family shares. My chest went cold. They had cut into the one place I'd tried to reclaim for myself. That night, I drove straight to the beach house and changed the locks under a cold sky. Brooke's text came fast and furious. Hilarious, we got locked out. Had to get a motel. You owe me. I put my phone on airplane mode and slept 12 uninterrupted hours. But the break didn't last. Not with my family. A week later, Brooke sent another message. We need the house this weekend. Don't make this a thing. When I said no, she sent a voice note, dripping with wounded entitlement. Wow. After everything I've done for you, I didn't know it then. But the next time she showed up, she wouldn't be asking. She'd be taking. The Friday they came back, the air over Willow Cove felt heavier than usual, thick with salt and a storm that hadn't committed yet. I closed the shop early, imagining a quiet night at the beach house, but when I turned into the gravel driveway, I saw them instantly were. Brooke arms crossed like she owned the coastline. Travis leaning on the porch rail with the smug ease of a man who never pays for anything he uses. 4 oversized suitcases lined up like soldiers behind them. My stomach dropped. No heads up, I asked, stepping out of my truck. Brooke smiled the way people smile when they want something. Surprised we needed a getaway. Travis has been overwhelmed. Travis didn't bother to look at me. Yeah, man. Burned out. I nodded slowly. How long is this getaway? Brooke waved her hand. Just a few days. Honestly, you won't even notice we're here. I noticed the second I opened the door. Travis brushed past me, heading straight for the kitchen, opening drawers like he was evaluating a rental unit. Brooke shook sand from her shoes onto my floor and tossed her jacket over my couch like she was auditioning to play the privileged sister in a sitcom. I've got an early morning tomorrow, I said, trying to set a boundary. Brooke laughed. Who works on Saturday? You need to live a little. Some of us have bills. She shrugged, already scrolling through her phone. Anyway, breakfast at 6, full spread. Travis likes things fresh. My heartbeat thudded once slow. 6? Brooke tilted her head. You're the host, Ethan. That's literally your job. The old version of me, the doormat, the walking ATM, the fixer, almost answered automatically. Almost. But instead, I said nothing and walked to my room. My silence wasn't obedience this time. It was strategy. That night, the house felt like it was being chewed apart. Cabinet doors slammed. Bass-heavy music shook the floors. Travis cooked something that smelled like burnt garlic and cheap sausage. Brooke danced in the kitchen, recording an Instagram story. At my brother's beach house again, manifesting peace was the last thing she brought. Around midnight, I stepped out for water. Brooke glared at me mid-recording. "Can you not? You're ruining the vibe. This isn't a resort," I said. She scoffed. "You really need to loosen up. You sound like Mom when she's in one of her moods." I went to bed with the bass vibrating my spine. At dawn, I found my pantry torn apart, half my bread gone, coffee beans spilled. Someone had drained the last of the orange juice straight from the carton. There was a sticky ring on the tile where something sugary had dried into glue. I started cleaning. Not because I wanted to, but because chaos stresses me out more than silence. Halfway through wiping the counter, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Hi, this is Miss Parker. I'm the landlord for Travis Reed. I need to confirm a few things." A cold line ran down my back. She came to my shop later that day. Her eyes were sharp, her clipboard color-coded. She explained calmly, professionally, that Travis listed my address as his residence on a rental application, and listed me as a reference. "I like to verify these things," she said. "Most people don't appreciate surprises. Neither did I." "I'm not his reference," I said, "and he doesn't live at my house?" She raised an eyebrow. "Good to know." When she left, something heavy settled in my chest. Not shock, not confusion, something older. Something with a long memory. By the time I got home, Brooke had invited 2 friends over. "Just an hour," she said. It had been 3. They lounged on my couch, wine glasses in hand, their laughter loud and careless. Brooke smirked when I walked in. "Relax, Ethan. You're so intense." But inside me something cracked, clean and quiet. I didn't show it. I didn't have to. By Sunday morning, the beach house didn't feel like mine anymore. The hallway smelled like Brooke's coconut hairspray, the living room like Travis's cologne, thick, sharp, and invasive. I stepped over an energy drink can, a crumpled napkin, and a pair of shoes abandoned in the middle of the floor. Every breath felt borrowed. At breakfast, Brooke barely looked up from her phone. "Thinking about inviting a couple friends," she said casually, stabbing a piece of bacon. "They've been dying to see the beach." "No," I said immediately. Her neck snapped up. "What do you mean, no? This isn't your house." Travis let out a low chuckle. "Dude, it's just a beach. Chill. And the public beach is right there," I said. "Use that." Brooke dropped her fork. "God, Ethan, you've been so weird lately. Ever since you bought this place, you've turned controlling." The word hit harder than I expected. Controlling? That was what they called me whenever I tried to protect anything. My time, my money, my space. I took a slow breath. After breakfast, I headed to the shop hoping distance would help. But when I checked my phone during a break, Mom had already sent her assessment. "Brooke says you're being cold. Don't push her away, Ethan." A second message followed almost instantly. "She's had a rough year. Be patient." I stared at the screen, the words blurring. Patience was a currency I'd spent for decades, and I was bankrupt. When I got home that evening, the front door was unlocked. My pulse kicked. I stepped inside quietly and found Travis in my office, my one private place, rummaging through a drawer. "What are you doing?" I asked, voice sharp. He didn't even turn around. "Looking for scissors. You don't go through my things." He scoffed. "Man, relax. You're always so uptight." The arrogance in his tone nearly made my vision blur. He pushed past me on the way out, shoulder hitting mine just enough to be disrespectful. I stood there a long moment, breathing through the heat building in my chest. Later on the porch, while I tried to settle myself with the sound of waves, my phone buzzed. Jaden again. "Don't let them steamroll you." 3 simple words. Finally, someone saw what was happening. For the first time all weekend, I didn't feel completely insane, but the universe wasn't done testing me. That night, I heard Brooke pacing upstairs, whispering on the phone. "Yeah, we're staying at Ethan's." "No, he never says no. Honestly, this place is basically ours whenever we want." I stopped mid-step on the stairs, her words slicing clean through me. She didn't care about my boundaries because she didn't believe I had any. I was a resource, not a brother. When she hung up, I stepped inside the guest room to grab laundry, and that's when I saw it. A whole itinerary laid out on the dresser. Summer at Ethan's. Content schedule. My name. My house. As content. Rows of notes followed. Golden hour shots on porch. Ask Ethan to upgrade bedding, white looks cleaner on camera, film morning routine in his bathroom, LOL. My hands curled involuntarily. This wasn't a visit. This was a takeover. The next morning delivered the final blow. A scream erupted from the kitchen. Are you serious? Brooke shrieked. I rushed in, half expecting a fire. Instead, an empty bottle of vanilla oat milk sat on the counter. A sticky ring beneath it. You drank it all, she demanded, waving the bottle like a weapon. No. Well, someone did, she snapped. Now breakfast is ruined? Travis added, Dude, you've got to be more considerate. In my own house. Something in me shifted clean, decisive. Fine, I said quietly. Breakfast will be ready at 6. Brooke blinked. Suspicious. But she didn't question it. She thought she'd won. But as the sun dipped behind the ocean and washed the porch in gold, I sat with a calm I hadn't felt in years. Because I knew what came next. Not revenge, clarity. The kind that stains. I woke at 3:00 a.m., not tired, not resentful, just done. The house was dark, a thin line of moonlight slipping through the blinds like a blade. The air smelled like ocean salt and cold tile. Every creak beneath my feet sounded sharper than usual, as if the house was holding its breath with me. I showered, dressed, and stepped into the kitchen where the small stove light glowed like a spotlight. 3 mugs waited on the counter, 2 white, 1 black. I placed them deliberately like props on a stage. When I reached for the bottle of blue food coloring, the glass felt cool, almost ceremonial. 1 drop into each of their mugs, harmless, silent, impossible to ignore. The espresso machine hissed. Steam curled upward. When the shots blended with the dye, nothing looked different yet. Not until heat met lips. Breakfast came next. Eggs done perfectly. Bacon crisp. Toast golden. Oat milk poured into a small pitcher exactly the way Brooke insisted. Everything curated, controlled, intentional. But not for their comfort. For clarity. At 5:58, I sat at the table with my own untouched black coffee and waited. Soft footsteps. A yawn. Brooke's voice drifting down the hall, sharp and entitled, He better have done it right this time. They shuffled into the kitchen at 6:07, barely awake. Brooke's hair was in a messy bun. Travis scratched his neck like he expected applause for showing up. Breakfast is ready, I said. They sat, ate, barely thanked me. 3 minutes in, right on schedule, Travis froze. Babe, something's wrong with my teeth. Brooke flipped her front camera open and gasped so loudly the windows shook. What, Ethan? What did you do? My mouth is blue. Travis lunged for a spoon, using it as a mirror. Dude, I have a Zoom meeting. I look like a smurf. I took a slow sip from my black mug. Must be the roast. New blend. Brooke slammed her napkin down, voice cracking. Fix it, it's food coloring. I said calmly, safe, temporary, but hard to ignore, kind of like boundaries. Silence hit the room like a dropped plate. Then I reached beside me and placed a thick folder on the table. Paper receipts, screenshots, transfers, years of debt, dates highlighted, promises broken. Brooke's face paled under the blue. Ethan, what is that, everything you owe me? I said. And every reason this house isn't your personal hotel, Travis scoffed. You invoice family. That's pathetic. You steal from family, I countered. That's worse. I unlocked my phone and opened the family group chat, placing it face up on speaker. Then I hit send. A single message echoed through the kitchen. This house is not free lodging. Money owed will be repaid. Boundaries are final. Mom texted first. Ethan, don't do this. Dad added, stop embarrassing us. But then Aunt Monica. He's right. Grandma Evelyn. Proud of you, sweetheart, finally. Brooke's eyes darted in panic. Delete it? Ethan, delete it, no. I slid a QR code across the table. $300. Deposit for your stay, pay it now, or pack. The room held its breath. A ping sounded from my phone. Payment received. Brooke whispered, You're unbelievable. I stood letting the ocean roar fill the silence behind me. No, I said. I'm finally done. They stayed until Sunday. But the house felt different, like someone had quietly adjusted the gravity. They moved around with a stiffness I'd never seen before. Brooke barely spoke. Travis avoided eye contact, like the blue still lingered on his teeth. Even the floorboards seemed relieved when they walked softer. They checked out at exactly 10:00 a.m., sheets folded, dishwasher running, a sticky note left on the counter deposit should cover everything. We didn't break anything. The smiley face felt more like a warning than gratitude. After they pulled out of the driveway, I walked through each room. The air finally felt breathable again. The ocean outside thudded against the shore. Steady, unbothered, almost encouraging. I opened my payment app. The $300 pulsed on the screen. It wasn't about the money. It was about crossing a line I'd been too afraid to draw for years. 2 days passed before Brooke sent the first $50 toward her debt, then another. Then she missed one. Monday, she made it up with a single grim emoji as apology. I didn't respond. The rules didn't require conversation, just accountability. Later that week, Miss Parker stopped by the shop. She picked up a linen shirt and said, "By the way, Travis removed your address from his file." But the application didn't go through anyway. Her tone was casual. Mine wasn't. Something in my chest loosened as she walked out. Mom kept texting. That familiar mixture of guilt and performance. "We should do a family weekend at the beach house. Heal things," I replied. "Only if everyone pays their share." Her return message was a long sigh emoji. Funny how quickly people lost interest when they couldn't freeload. In the quiet moments folding shirts at closing time, drinking late-night coffee on my porch, I realized something. The blue coffee wasn't the revenge. It wasn't even the lesson. The real shift was this: they no longer had free access to me. Not my home, not my wallet, not my silence. Brooke and Travis thought the humiliation ended at stained teeth and a QR code. But what they didn't know was simple. I just learned how powerful no can be. And I wasn't done using it. If you've ever stood in a room full of people who share your blood but not your respect, then you already understand the kind of quiet I lived in. Families can praise you, drain you, and call it love, all in the same breath. If any part of my story felt familiar, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Your voice matters here. And if you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, this channel is for you. This story isn't over, not by a long shot.